Been a crazy few days for Alabama. There's been some news going out, but a lot of news coming in.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back into Locked On Bama, AHSA's radio network. Luke Robinson, that's me. Bama Online's Jimmy Stein, that's him. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. I'll tell you about Game Time here in just a little bit. Thank you, everydayers, for joining us every day, and thank you, newbies, for being here today. So, Jimmy, lots has happened. I mean, you can't leave a message board or Twitter right now because things have gotten nuts. Luckily, I think the transfer portal closes tonight at midnight, even though I think the school has 48 hours to submit paperwork or whatever. But a lot has happened. Some dudes have transferred out. Some dudes have said they are staying, which has been some really big news. I think overall, even though Alabama had a lot more guys leave than probably we thought, the news has been relatively good overall for Alabama.
Yeah. Look, I think at a place like Alabama, which is going to be similar to every other elite program. By elite programs, I'm talking about the top 10, top 12 programs in all of college football that are sort of on that first tier, Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, and so on. I think at those schools in this modern age, you can lump your roster into three groups. The number one group is your starters, guys that are starters or clear projected starters for next season. There'll be about 22 of those guys. Let's go up to 26, 27, because you can have, a fifth DB or a platoon at a spot. So let's say that's about 27 guys. A second group you have is your incoming true freshmen. Alabama right now, that's 21. Some places it might be a few more. Let's say that's 21 guys because it's 21 guys showing up at Alabama. So you got that 27 plus 21. That's like 48. The third group, the remaining guys, so there's about roughly, 27 of them, because you got to minus out the seniors that left, the seniors that have no eligibility. There's like 10 of those at Alabama. So there's only about 27, 28 other guys on the whole roster between your projected starters and your true freshmen. There's only about 28 other guys. That's your group that leaves. Hopefully not all 28 leave. Hopefully it's not all 28. But a gigantic chunk of the players that left for Alabama are in that group, guys that aren't projected starters and aren't true freshmen coming in. That's the group that leaves, and Alabama has lost a significant chunk of that dudes. The good news is what you don't want to lose are guys in the first group, the starter group. Alabama, in my opinion, has lost kind of two guys from that group, Devonte Smith and Elijah Pritchett. Both Devonte Smith and Elijah Pritchett, by the way, had to fight to keep those spots. And I think that might be a factor there because Devonte Smith had to fight off Deshaun Jones and Red Morgan and others. Elijah Pritchett in a battle with Wilkin Formby that he's lost before, by the way. You got to remember Formby beat him out last summer and then lost the job during the season. But point being, Alabama's losses have really been from that third group, which is expected. That's kind of how it works now in 2024. Again, I just want everybody to think of those rosters and those three groups: starters, true freshmen, everybody else. It's the everybody else that hightails it. Why? Because they want to be starters. They want to move up to that first group, and but they have to do that somewhere else.
Yeah. So you mentioned Elijah Pritchett. That's probably the one that's drawing the most discussion of everything we're talking about, at least in message boards and whatever, because while you are technically correct, he was a starter. I would say he was the most maligned starter outside of maybe Jalen Milroe.
Right.
And because he just wasn't great this year. Now, what does that say about Wilkin Formby, you could say? I mean, why didn't he take the job? Good point.
Good question.
However, I think this is one of those, I'd rather take the devil I don't know versus the devil I do in this particular instance. I'm willing to say, okay, if it's not Formby, maybe it'll be somebody else that's coming in.
Right.
He's a true freshman. And granted, that's scary. But at this point, I don't know that I just don't see Elijah Pritchett having this, incredible renaissance where where an epiphany in the sense that like the light comes on for him.
We're more likely to have that exact thing you're talking about is Wilkin Formby. Why?
Yeah.
People, he's a redshirt freshman. He was a redshirt freshman this past year playing in college football games for the first time. And he won the job. He beat out Pritchett last summer and fall. Then he had the disaster against South Florida. It was bad. That was bad. His game against South Florida got him on the bench, deservingly so. Pritchett comes in, plays better than Formby in the games. But from that point forward, it was Pritchett's job. But when Formby came in at times, he was pretty good. It got the notice of a lot of teams around the league, by the way. And Formby, by the way, we can tell you, Formby's been recruited to play for other SEC teams.
He's been tampered with?
Breaking. So the point being, Formby was a redshirt freshman. There is real upside there. Pritchett also, give him a chance. He's a redshirt sophomore this past year. He'll be a junior in the fall. Pritchett can improve too. But I think just based on developmental arc, Formby is likely to shoot ahead of Pritchett. And that's probably not why Pritchett left. I think it's partly why Pritchett left. But if you'd have asked me, and I know it's so easy for people to say, oh, he's sour grapes, he's the sunshine pumper. I honestly, and I've already talked about it, if I had to guess who the starting right tackle was going to be next year, I would have guessed Formby before this Pritchett news. I think Formby is the one more likely to take a big leap.
Plus, to my knowledge, Elijah Pritchett's family doesn't own a beloved Mexican restaurant in the Tuscaloosa area. So,
that's true. That's got to be a plus too. I am a big Taco Casa fan, and I can be bribed and bought with taco burgers.
Deontay Lawson and Tim Keenan are coming back. Mm-hmm. That's big. Yeah. I mean, those two are huge because just last week, Tim Keenan had put some rather cryptic stuff out there that people were like, not sure what he's talking about here. And turns out he's coming back. That's big. Deontay Lawson coming back big. Sterling Dixon in the portal. I mean, all I can say is, good luck.
Group 3, that third group we talked about. He ain't a starter and he ain't a true freshman. So He's in that he might leave group. He left.
We talked about Amari Jefferson. We think he's probably headed to Tennessee again.
Same group.
No, I liked him. I mean, but I'm not super upset. Ty Lockwood in the transfer portal. Okay. Again, when we signed him, it's hard for me to get fired up about any tight end, and I'm including Marshall Pritchett. I'm including the kid out of California we signed this year. I'm including all those dudes, unless it is, OJ Howard-esque,
right?
Somebody that I've seen be uber dynamic. In fact, I would have been even more fired up about Caleb Odom if we had said, "Oh, he's going to be a tight end." I mean, that's me. Yeah. But it's hard for me because really, I think otherwise they just don't bring a ton to the table. I know that kid for Penn State, number 44, but he's more of a
different.
He's more of a like do it all, jack of all trades guy.
Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, who's the guy for
Ty Warren is
for the Saints.
Taysom Hill.
Taysom Hill, yeah, that's who he is. But overall, in the end, I think the comings and goings for Alabama have worked out in the positive. That does mean that we have some scholarship room now, and Jimmy and I will talk about what that's going to do when we get back. Game time. Y'all know I love game time. Y'all know I used it for the Peach Bowl. I got a sweet seat via Game Time for about $100 to go see Arizona State play Texas. And I didn't even get the $20 off that you can get if it's the first time you've ever used it by using code LOCKEDONCollege. I didn't do it because I use Game Time all the time. So, I mean, I already get discounts like nobody's business. Game Time's absolute best. The app is super easy to use. Best price is guaranteed. You want to go to Game Time. That's where you're going to get your tickets. I'm telling you, you will never get your tickets anywhere else once you use them from Game Time. And they've been a loyal sponsor, and we've been loyal to them. And look, I'll tell you something. If they quit being a sponsor tomorrow, and please don't, if they quit being a sponsor tomorrow, I would still use Game Time all the time. That's how much I believe in Game Time. So you will believe in it too. And if it's your first time ever using it, go download the app, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off that first order. And then, feel free to send me a comment and say, Luke, you're the best. By the way, you can send me a comment saying Luke is the best anyway. I mean, just want to do that type of stuff. So we have some scholarship room now. I mean, I think we're at 80. There is a couple of running backs visiting. Excuse me, Draylon Washington from Hemp Hill College, whatever that is. And then there's Rashul Faison. Is that a
Rashul Faison? Yeah. They're both good. Faison in particular, I get excited about Faison. I mean, in terms of you see other schools he's visiting, Georgia.
Yeah,
he's obviously
he's Utah State, right?
Yeah, he's the back from Utah State, all Mountain Conference type running back. He's older. This is a guy that's only got eligibility because of the Diego Pavia ruling, which has given him an additional 5th year. On the one hand, you'd say, well, if he's so great and he's a 5th-year running back, why isn't he in the NFL? Good question. Fair question. But on the other hand, you're talking about an experienced all-conference back where he was, and you got to like the age of maturity. And Alabama had questionable production from the running back position last year. But I would say he's more of a luxury than a necessity. And Alabama would sort of want him as opposed to need him, sort of a want. And as we say all the time here, pay attention to who these guys are, not necessarily the position. Because, again, I see positions where Alabama has greater needs than running back. Like another defensive tackle in the rotation would be great. Some more depth at cornerback would be great. Maybe a tight end would be a need. But running back's not so much a need. I just think that these two guys are so good, you don't want to turn them away if they're interested because they're legit dudes. I tell the story all the time about Saban and Jameer Gibbs, one of my insider stories that I share here. But Alabama wasn't interested in a running back that cycle, and it was presented to Saban that Jameer Gibbs wanted to be here, and he's like, we don't need a running back. And they're like, just sit down and watch a tape. And he goes like, well, I know the kid is. It's like, yeah, but watch a tape. And he watched a tape a little bit. And he's like, okay, we got to have this guy. We got to have, well, it's because Gibbs is a dude that made the team better. And I think that's kind of why these running backs are here. I think they're just kind of who they are as opposed to what positions they play.
And I said Hemp Hill University for some dumb reason. I mean, it's Hemp Hill High School. He played for Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns. That's Washington.
Yeah.
Faison is, look, I guess here's my question, Jimmy. Which one would we take? Do we prefer one?
I don't know. I don't see how you could take two backs, and since you already have 5 scheduled to be on the roster, no information from the inside. I'm just going to guess there that Faison would be the one of the two that would be the more highly regarded. He certainly is visiting the more premium institutions.
Which one's more likely then?
I would even say Faison because that might be somebody Alabama would push for potentially. But again, this other kid is a good player. He wouldn't be there if he wasn't. Again, these are wants as opposed to needs. And let's see what they say. They're visiting other places too, other places that need backs. These kids want to play. So to some extent, this was a kick in the tires thing. I think even on the kids' part, they're like, well, of course I'd be interested in being the running back at Alabama, but I got to really inspect your depth chart situation before I sign up, because who wants to sign up to go somewhere and sit on the bench when you were an all-conference player back at your old school? So I think there's some kick in the tires that goes on, but that goes on 2 ways, right? I mean, the kid needs to be made convinced that they would be a significant player here.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see because, look, on the surface, I'm thinking, why do we need another running back? But, I mean, look, you've got Jameon Miller who has – I mean, he's good, but he's proven to not necessarily be explosive.
Yeah, there's question marks here. I think it's fair to question Jam going into next year, but I mean that not in a – I'm not in a negative way. I don't mean it in terms of a criticism. I mean it in terms of hey, Jam, it's time to produce, man. We're pulling for you.
Yeah.
And he's shown us flashes of being that guy, but there's only been flashes, and it hasn't been every week. So there's some fair question marks regarding Jam. Thankfully, he's got a whole nother season to answer those questions.
And then you say, okay, well, we got Richard Young. We didn't even see Richard Young barely in the deadgum bowl game.
Yeah, nine snaps.
What's up with that? I mean, part of me is like, I don't see why in the world Richard Young didn't get in the portal. I don't want him to. I'm just saying, in this day and age, that's weird to me. And then, okay, you got Daniel Hill, fine, but he hadn't shown that he's Sean Alexander. And then there's A.K. Deer, again, true freshman, love him, but he's a true freshman.
Yeah, Kevin Riley too.
Kevin Riley.
I'm excited, but I'm glad that all 5 of these backs are on the team. I'm excited to see what they might do with more opportunity, including Jam. I think Jam and Richard Young might be fantastic, 1A and 1B. Very excited about A.K. Deer potentially being an impact freshman. And I like Hill and Riley as a duo because Riley's kind of the home run guy and Hill's kind of the short yardage guy. So I like that we have them, but it is fair to question whether Alabama is going to have the tight backs that can combine for 1,600 yards. I don't know. I mean, that's what you need. And maybe they have it, maybe they don't. Again, there will be questions we'll ask all spring and summer. But I'm excited about Jam and Rich Young being 1A and 1B.
One other thing, we didn't bring this up. Jeremiah Alexander in the portal, and he's apparently visiting Auburn. And I mean, again, you and I, Jeremiah Alexander has been the classic case of any minute now. Here we go. You know, he's a dude, but it just never happened. And so
going into year 4 next year too.
Yeah, and if
4 years at Alabama was not a significant player.
And if the Hill Green thing, where we signed him from Colorado, I mean, that's sort of a sign like, okay, we need more help there, and he may not be it. So he gets in the portal, he's visiting Auburn. And again, I'm not pulling against the kid. I'll pull against Auburn. I won't pull against him. And I hope he does well, but it's not, again, no real big problem there. It's just it didn't pan out, and the Thompson curse continues. It's
time for him to play, right? It's time for him to play, and because he's a redshirt junior, so it's time for him to play. Was he going to play in front of Deontay Lawson? No. Was he going to play in front of Justin Jefferson? Yeah, so far. Is he going to be in front of Nakai Green Hill? Probably not. Probably not. Nakai Green Hill comes here as an all Big 12 player. So he was going to be no better than 4th in the pecking order at inside linebacker at Alabama, and he needs to play. So I don't look at it as a negative at all. And in fact, Alabama's new 4th inside linebacker, I'm stoked about. And that's Justin Okoronkwo, who I thought was fantastic as a true freshman. So good he didn't redshirt. He was too good not to have on special teams, and may have been our best special teams player down the stretch. That kid was making about every tackle, and when we put him in the game at inside linebacker, he looked pretty good. I'm fired up about Okoronkwo, who will be a sophomore next year, which is a good age to be that 4th guy at inside linebacker. So I'm fired up about that group, and I just wish Jeremiah Alexander well, even if it is at Auburn. Jeremiah is going to be an interesting front 7 fit no matter where he goes. Look, in my opinion, he should be playing outside, but he's 6'1.5". He's 6'1". He's not the ideal SEC prototype outside linebacker type. He's not long like most of those best guys are. But I think he's more of an outside guy than an inside guy, but he's playing inside at Alabama because he had a better chance of getting on the field inside.
FanDuel time. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are back with FanDuel, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's 200 smacks in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. Look, it's awesome. Go visit the website and just toy around with it. You'll love it. You'll be hooked. You'll be so satisfied with everything. You'll love it. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bet. That's $200 win or lose, y'all. That's at FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Jimmy. You tell them.
The NFL.
All right, so final segment, time to talk a little hoops. First of all, congrats to the ladies who won Thursday. I guess they play today, right?
They play today against Missouri. About to write up a little thing on BOL about that.
Okay.
Boy, they're good. Injury to Sarah Ashley Barker, though.
How bad?
Rumored, Alabama hasn't said, rumored out 2 to 4 weeks. 2 to 4 games.
Oh.
Nope, wait.
Same thing.
2 to 4 weeks. 2 to 4 weeks. Yeah, I think it's the dreaded high ankle.
Oh, that sucks. Okay. Alabama gets a big win yesterday over Oklahoma. Now, look, I'm going to, thanks for teaching me this word, tamp down expectations here for a minute, or jubilation, because I do think Oklahoma was mildly overrated a hair. They were undefeated, and they deserve all the credit for that. But when I watched them yesterday, I'm like, that's not the number 12 team in the country. And if it is, it's a bad country. But they still got some do that Elvis dude. Man,
Elvis is in the building.
A hunk of basketball player. But overall, here's what I love about yesterday. And I'm going to talk about some stats. Michael Southern texted me, and I'll get Michael Southern on the show this week to talk some basketball, by the way. First of all, I love that we have not played our best game, and we just beat the number 12 team in the country by 28. That was not our best game, and it wasn't by a long shot. But let me give you some stats that Michael Southern sent over. Alabama's averaging 91.1 points per game, currently best in program history, ahead of last year's program record 90.1, so a whole point higher. The 91.1 points per game leads the nation despite shooting 31% on threes, the second to worst percentage in the Nate Oates era. Holy cow, bottom 12 percentile in the country. So we haven't found our shots yet, and we're still averaging this much. We currently lead currently the best rebounding and passing team in the Nate Oates era. Top 3 team nationally in rebounds and top 40 in assists. So this team's really getting it together. If they can find their shot, and by God, they're going to shoot their way into finding it. That's the good thing. They ain't going to quit shooting.
Imagine if they can keep winning, keep playing like they are right now, even shooting no better than they are, but keep winning, and then late, mid-March.
Find that stroke.
Mid-March, the shots start falling. That team's going to be tough to beat.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's some nitpick stuff you can get on, and if you really want to analyze this thing. But overall, you've got to be thrilled to death that this team has not hit its stride, and it just beat the number 12 team by 28. It's got 12 wins already. It's 1-0 in the toughest conference in the country. Not just my opinion. That's facts. That's like statistics back that up. And then you look around the SEC, and all of a sudden, Tennessee looked good against Arkansas. They look good, but again, they have some flaws. Auburn looked good against Missouri, but I watched that game. They have some slight flaws too. It is what we think it is. I don't think there's anybody that's unbeatable, and I think Alabama's right up there with any of them. And if we play you in Coleman Coliseum, you better strap it on. And if you I got to find a better way to say that. But if we play you on the road, here's the catch, Jimmy. I don't know yet. When we go to play South Carolina Wednesday night, that's going to be big. South Carolina just took a bludgeoning by Mississippi State. A Mississippi State team they're not bad. They're good.
They're good.
But are they 35 points better than South Kakalaki? For the love of God?
Shouldn't be that big of a difference, but I'm with 8 SEC games yesterday, Luke. Only one road winner, Vanderbilt over LSU. That was the only road winner. This is what I'm curious to see about these midweek games. 8 midweek games coming up, right, over Tuesday, Wednesday. Is there only going to be one road winner again? And if so, let's hope it's Alabama. Let's hope. I mean, I'm just saying, is it going to be typical in a particular slot of games for the on the road to be 1-7? Is that going to be typical, or was that an outlier? I'm thinking it's going to be close to typical. I'm going to say maybe typical going forward is 2-6. And
I'm with you.
Weekends that it's 3-5, you're like, wow, 3 road games, 3 road teams won this week will be kind of shocking. I think it's going to be like that, Luke. And the thing for Alabama this week is, if you don't beat South Carolina on the road, then who are you going to beat on the road?
Yeah,
because this might be the easiest, and that's not the right word to use. Let's say this: the most winnable of the 9 road games is Wednesday.
And let me tell you this: I like this. People are going to think I'm nuts about this, but hear me out. I'm glad we're playing the easiest road game early. Let's play it and let's win it. I think we will. And then you go to Texas A&M. That's going to be tough. They just took care of Texas. That's going to be very tough, but that's a winnable game. They're not unbeatable. Then you come on and play Ole Miss. So what I'm saying is, you start out with a good run in the SEC. Mm-hmm. On the backside, we have like Tennessee, Florida, and Auburn or something to end the season. I mean, something crazy, right? Yeah. So if we go 1-2 in there, I mean, that's very understandable. And people will be like, "Oh, Alabama's limping down the stretch." I would almost rather, because I think basketball is ebbs and flows, and I feel like I want to have my ebb right there, right before the tournament starts, like be done with it, and then come up high in tournament time. Because I think it's going to do like this, and I think with Alabama, it's going to do like this quickly. It's not going to be like this huge long dip and then a huge long run. I think we can have more short spurts. And we got to take care of South Carolina. We got to take care of them. And
it's almost a must win. I mean,
yeah, I'm with you.
Like a must win, unless you lose this game, you just don't want to. Okay, well, where are you going to find the other road wins? So, and I think I'm with you. I think Alabama will beat.
I mean, LSU, the only team that lost at home.
Alabama. I think Alabama will beat South Carolina. I do. So I'm going to pick. If we're going to do pick, I'm picking Alabama to win the game. I think they will. They're just better, and I think they will win. I don't know that it's going to look like that Oklahoma game looked. I don't know that we're going to trounce anybody by 28 on the road, but I do think Alabama will win the game. They're just going to outdude South Carolina. It'll be nice to see our old friend Nick Pringle, by the way.
It will, and he's playing okay for him.
Good player. Okay. He was a good player at Alabama, or I'd say he was a contributing good player at Alabama. He's just a little he wasn't always easy to coach.
Until yesterday, given what I'd seen, until yesterday, I need to give Cliff Amore a shout out. Yeah. I would have rather had Nick Pringle on this team than have Amore
as a player.
At the beginning of the year, clearly I wanted Cliff.
Yeah.
But up until yesterday, and I want to give Amore his flowers. Because
he was great.
Yeah, he was great yesterday. Played within himself, 4 of 4 from the field. He didn't take any free throws. Okay, 6 rebounds, some nice blocks. He did what we've been waiting for him to do. I don't need him to score 20. Mark Sears is going to score 20 every game. Outside of one game, Mark Sears is going to score 20 every game. That's just what he does. He scores 20.
You just need Cliff to be a physical presence. Almost like the run-stuffing defensive end. That run-stuffing defensive end doesn't need to sack the quarterback to make an impact on the game. He needs to be a wall to where the other team looks at that side of the field and says, "We're not running it over there to that side."
Yep.
That's a waste of time.
Or up the middle with Terrence Cody. He's Terrence Cody. Like he gets 2 tackles. You're like, what's the big deal? Well, he forced everything somewhere else.
That's right. And teams wouldn't challenge him. Teams wouldn't even challenge him. So that's what we need Cliff Amore to be, just a physical presence. He doesn't need to be the stat sheet filler. We got other dudes for that.
LeBaron Philon being LeBaron Philon, Grant Nelson really coming on now. I mean, really coming on.
Great. Grant is I don't want to say in a team full of stars that Grant's sort of the backbone of the team, but what I love about Grant is he's so talented, but he plays hard. That's one thing that Alabama has done for him, that hard hat mentality. Grant freaking gets after it.
Did he win the hard hat yesterday? I didn't see it. He should have. Did you see the save he had on their baseline? I mean, it was beautiful. And it's hard to be that big and run that fast to get over there to get that. And, there were times he was an on-the-floor guy. He spent a lot of time on the floor, like not running upright. I'm talking about knocked down to the floor, or he jumped to the floor, because he was hustling. And Grant Nelson played well. Mark Sears, Mark Sears, I thought he had a concerted effort to get to the rack more. But I'm telling you, Jimmy, and maybe it never comes. We've got a large sample size now, so maybe I'm just wishing. But if we can find our stroke, man, we blew out Oklahoma, but it doesn't feel like we blew them out, right? To me, it doesn't feel like it. I'm saying, like, if you're watching that game, I looked up and I go, we got 98 points. When did it happen?
I knew we were going to win handily 6 or 7 minutes into the game.
Yeah.
Maybe
it was never close.
6 or 7 minutes into the game, I'm like, well, we did win this one. But, it just felt like Alabama was a lot better than Oklahoma.
And I don't remember what the exact score was when John Petty and Herb and all those dudes stroked LSU out of existence in Baton Rouge that time. I think it was during the COVID year. But I remember that game, I was like, we blew them out. And I don't remember what the final score was, but it was probably 30, whatever. But it felt like we blew them out so early because we were hot from deep. This game, we were killing them just like with regular old buckets, and it didn't feel like we were blowing up. Every time I looked at the score, I'm like, how are we up this much?
I think it's just from the 3-point shooting wasn't phenomenal. It was just okay. And
you had a stat about the 3-point. Say that.
Well, Porter Moser came up with this stat. I can't remember. I guess I heard it either out of Porter's mouth or someone repeating Porter Moser. But Porter Moser, the Oklahoma coach, was asked, about is it difficult to play Alabama because of they're so good at 3-point shooting. And as we know, as Alabama fans, we're actually not a great 3-point shooting team at the moment. But Porter Moser said it doesn't matter that they're not making their threes because they rebound 40% of their missed threes. 40% of their missed threes, they get their own rebound. So what does it matter that they don't make them? And if that's true, and again, I'm quoting Porter Moser there. If that's true, what a shout out to how hard this team plays, the hard hat mentality that they have, and Nate Oates' system. It defends the system. When somebody's like, they take too many bad shots, they take too many threes. What does it matter if you're rebounding them 40% of the time?
What does it matter when you win by 28 over the 12th ranked team in the country? I hate that live by the three, die by the three thing. They're living pretty good by the three.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Can you imagine beating even the 12th ranked football team? Who was 12th in the college football playoff? Was it Arizona State? Maybe finished as the 12th seed, or
it had to be
SMU.
Clemson,
the 12th ranked team. Yeah, who was the 12th ranked team?
Clemson.
It might have been Alabama.
No, it wasn't. It was whoever played Ohio State. No, it wasn't. It was whoever played Tech.
Well,
Clemson.
Arizona State is who played. I think wasn't Arizona State.
It was Clemson.
That had to be right. It was Clemson.
Yeah.
So imagine beating Clemson by 28 in football points.
Georgia can. All right, that's going to do it for today's podcast. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Until then, roll tide.
Roll Tide.